All right. And, oh, Ron, will you just pull the bell in case anybody's in their office? Calling this hearing to order. For the record, my name is Kenzie Bach. I'm the District 8 City Councilor and also the Chair of the Boston City Council's Committee on City Services and Innovation Technology. This public hearing is being recorded. It's being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. We'll be taking public testimony at the end of this hearing. So if you're here with us in the chamber, please sign up over there in the corner. There's a sheet near the chamber entrance. And if you're interested in testifying virtually, please email ron.cobb@boston.gov for the link. That's ron.cobb@boston.gov. And Ron will get you the virtual testimony link. And we just ask that for all testimony, you state your name, residence, or affiliation, and try to keep your comments to 2 minutes just so we can get everybody in. Now I'm going to read some fairly lengthy dockets. Today's hearing is on Docket 0625, message in order for your approval in order to reduce the FY22 appropriation for the reserve for collective bargaining by $123,291 to provide funding for various departments for the FY22 increases contained within the collective bargaining agreements between the Public Health Commission and AFSCME Council 93. Docket 0626, message in order for the supplemental appropriation order for the Boston Public Health Commission for FY22 in the amount of $123,291 to cover the FY22 cost items contained within the collective bargaining agreements between the Boston Public Health Commission and AFSCME Council 93. The terms of the contracts are October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2023. The major provisions of the contract include base wage increases of 2%, 1.5%, and 2% to be given in January of each fiscal year of the contract term. Docket 0627, message in order for your approval of an order to reduce the FY22 appropriation for the reserve for collective bargaining by $94,113 to provide funding for the inspectional services department for the FY22 increases contained within the collective bargaining agreements between the City of Boston and the Office and Professional Employees International Union Local 6. Docket 0628, message in order for the supplemental appropriation order for the inspectional services department for FY22 in the amount of $94,113 to cover the FY22 cost contained within the collective cost items contained within the collective bargaining agreements between the City of Boston and the Office and Professional Employee International Union Local 6. The terms of the contracts are July 1st, 2020 through June 30, 2023. The major provisions of the contract include base wage increases of 2%, 1.5%, and 2% to be given in October of each fiscal year of the contract term. And I've been joined here today by my colleague, Councilor Aaron Murphy, at large. And we're also joined on the administration side by James Williamson, our Office of Budget Management Director, by Renee Bouchy, the Director of Labor Relations in the Mayor's Office, and then David Susich, the Chief Labor and Employment Counsel at the Boston Public Health Commission. Just before I go over to the administration panel, a quick explanation for anyone watching at home and wondering what this is and why I just read all those words. Basically, when the Boston City Council approves budgets where all the contracts with the city workers for that year have not been settled, because we don't know exactly how much money will be paying in all those agreements because they haven't been reached yet, we established something called the collective bargaining reserve, where as a portion of the budget, we sort of set money aside for the future settling of contracts. And then once they are resolved, the question comes back to the council about appropriating that money specifically to pay the workers of the units that have reached agreements. And so the council needs to take 2 actions on any such agreement. It has to draw the money down from the reserve, the collective bargaining reserve, and then it has to assign it to the relevant departments where the workers are actually employed. When the council passed last year's budget, nearly all of our units were past the expiration of their prior contract. And since then, pretty much the rest have all gone out of contract as well. So our committee's receiving a number of these types of orders as those various contracts get resolved. And so we had some large ones covering a larger number of workers a couple of months back, and this is sort of a follow-up for another couple of units. Although the Boston Public Health Commission operates sort of quasi-independently from the city, and obviously we have, it has its own labor council who we'll be hearing from because their budget is funded through the city of Boston. This is still a council appropriation order question. And I'll note, since the Public Health Commission is part of this docket, that Councilor Murphy, who's joined me, is also the chair of our Public Health Committee here in the council. Now, I would like, we've got materials that have been provided on these memoranda of agreement. It's a slightly funny order of operations thing because these materials are provided to the council sort of as these things are settled, but a condition of their final settlement is that the council takes a vote in support, so it's kind of a in-process thing as we meet here today. But without further ado, I want to pass things over to Jim Williamson from the Office of Budget Management and allow the administration to speak a little bit to the dockets before us. Thank you, Jim.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Councilor Bach and Councilor Murphy, for inviting us here today to testify. My name is Jim Williamson. I'm the Budget Director at the City of Boston. I'm here to offer testimony on the dockets before you today and the appropriations they reflect, as well as answer any questions you may have to the best of my ability and follow up with any additional questions. Dockets 0625 through 0628 are appropriation transfer orders to cover the FY22 costs of the collective bargaining agreements between Boston Public Health Commission, AFSCME Union, for a total of $123,291, and between the city and the OPEIU Union for $94,113. As you just mentioned, dockets 0265 and 0627 reduce the central collective bargaining reserve, and dockets 0626 and 0628 provides funding to split both the costs at PHC and at ISD for the earnings that will be paid retroactively for FY22. The FY22 budget passed by City Council included a $10 million in aggregate to cover the collective bargaining reserves. So far in FY22, this is would be the fourth and fifth supplemental collective bargaining transfer orders. With the approval of this supplemental, the remaining balance in FY22 collective bargaining reserve will be $4.8 million. The agreements before you today cover 3 years. For PHC AFSCME, it runs from October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2023, and for the OPEIU union, it runs from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. The contracts include base wage increases of 2%, 1.5%, and 2% in January for BPHC AFSCME, in October for OPEIU in each fiscal year of the contract term. And we are joined here, as you mentioned, with our colleagues from the city's labor relations unit and PHC's labor relations unit, if you have any additional questions.
Great, thank you so much, Jim. Maybe if we could, I want to note that we've been joined by my colleague, Council President Ed Flynn, as well. Maybe if we could just begin by walking through a couple of the provisions. So obviously, both matters before us have the 2%, 1.5%, 2% pattern that's been set across a number of contracts for the city so far, and this one-time lump sum of $1,000 per member, kind of an acknowledgement of our, direct service, frontline city employee workers. I know that was also a component of the AFSCME 93 arrangement that the council already ratifies. I'm just registering that those are things that in my head we've kind of already had discussion about, although colleagues are obviously welcome to land on them again. I guess I just wanted to get a little bit more sense of the parental and military leave benefits in the OPEIU contract, like kind of if you could just speak a little bit to what those are.
Sure. Adding the City of Boston's parental leave benefit to this unit, several of our, I'm not sure about all, but several of our units already have this benefit. It provides, I believe it's 4 weeks at 100% of salary, 4 weeks at 75, and 4 weeks at 50% of salary for the birth of adoption of a child. So that's something like we were happy to provide for this unit as well. The military leave policy is more or less an update of different leave times that have been legislatively mandated for the City of Boston's military leave policy. So that was mostly just an update of that situation for those leaves.
Got it, thank you. And on the BPHC side, the addition of the influenza vaccination requirement, is there a date by which folks have to get that, and is it an annual requirement?
Yes, so for this unit, we have an annual requirement for the workforce to be vaccinated against influenza by October 31st of each year. That isn't new to the collective bargaining agreement. What's new and referenced in your documents is that the requirement was extended to the entire unit. It was previously limited to those who held certain direct care positions. And there were some clerical changes and clarifications about the process for handling any request for medical accommodations from exemption from the influenza or any other mandated vaccinations.
Got it, great, thank you. I have a couple more questions, but I think I'm going to cede to colleagues now, so I'll go first to Councilor Murphy and then to Councilor Flynn.
No, I think I'm good. Those were my questions also. If the influenza was new, but you explained it, so thank you. And thank you for the parental leave update, but after this meeting, if you could just share what is the current military leave benefit would be great.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. President Flynn?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam
Chair. I guess my question, and thank you to the panelists for being here. My question was similar to the question from Councilor Murphy, and I want to apologize for being late this afternoon, but on the military leave benefit, can I just get a little bit of background information on it? I didn't hear your opening statement, and I apologize again for being late, but could you just highlight what the military leave benefit is?
Sure. Do you want me just to provide the policy?
If you could just give me a quick update on exactly what it is and what's new in it and how it impacts the employees.
Right, it's like USERA and some of the federal requirements. I think there's been some changes. There's a National Guard provision where, you know, how much leave you get under that, and there's USERA provision. But I can just give you, maybe just send it to both of you.
Yeah, if you can send it via the committee, we'll get it to everybody, but I think,
Okay.
I think what we would love is both the updated 2021 military leave policy that's attached to the OPEIU contract, and then also either a side-by-side or a comparison of some type of like how that was updated, like what's different, right?
Okay.
If somebody wasn't already expert in the, whatever we previously had, whether it's us or the feds have changed it, just understanding how it's been.
I mean, I think it's just some time frames that were updated, but let me
Yeah,
be sure on that and give it to
that
you.
would be great. I know, I think the council in general, and actually specifically Councilors Murphy and Flynn, who are with me today, is very interested in making sure that we make it as easy as possible for our city workers who also serve their country. You know, and just wanting to understand the shape of that. That'd be
Okay.
great.
Yeah, thank you, Council Balkin. You said it perfectly. I'm glad the military leave benefits are added. I would like to see, certainly going forward, if we can try to enhance the benefits and opportunities for veterans that are city employees. I just want to see if there's anything we can do going forward to support them, something to think about. Also, on the both contracts, I do wish the 1.5 was a little higher. I wish it was 2%. Was there any reason that it could not have been bumped up to 2%? Jim?
I believe that was sort of through the costing, looking at all of the units, that was sort of what was arrived at, was an affordable pattern.
It could have been higher.
I mean, in OLR, we're just behind on a lot of these contracts, so the employees will get the retro benefit and they get the $1,000 lump sum, and I'm trying to try to get these done and caught up, and then maybe do something you know, with the next, because the next year, we're going to be starting negotiations again. So I guess that's been my sort of strategy to get it going.
Okay. I know the language items, Juneteenth is added to the contract as a recognized holiday. I know you placed that in the contract because everyone has to agree and sign on to it, even though it's already part of a city policy to have Juneteenth added into the schedule as a formal holiday. So I guess I'm just saying that it's really not a benefit they're receiving through this contract. It's just formalizing language, basically saying that all city employees receive Juneteenth off. Is that correct?
Well, I would say we probably have an obligation to negotiate over that. You know, we can't just change a holiday or give a holiday. So we would have an obligation to negotiate over that. But yes, they're getting the holiday, so.
But automatically, every city employee gets that off though, right?
Well, I think even to give the benefit, we would have to negotiate with the union and say that you agree with that and it's going to be in the contract. Even to give a benefit, I think that would be required by state labor law.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have. Thank you, Councilor Bach, and thank you to the panel for being here.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. And just another couple of questions. So one is just, and I don't know whether you're able to answer this, or if not, if we can get some follow-up from the department, but just understanding on the ISD, the housing inspectors, there's been a shift in the language around overtime work distribution. And I think that, am I right that it's just a question of electronic posting? That's the only thing that changed?
Yeah, I believe it's just the electronic posting.
Okay.
That was just a
minor, okay.
Yeah, minor
All right,
change.
great, good to understand. Yeah, I think obviously what the council has been interested in general and overtime across our departments is that we have efficient systems for making sure that we only turn to overtime when absolutely necessary, right? And so just making sure that, and there has been a history where our cumbersome systems of issuing overtime have at times been one of the factors driving that number up. So just something that we're interested in, but I think electronic posting obviously is something we would want to see. And then on the BPHC side, this is more of a sort of curiosity question. I have in the back of my head the idea that BPHC, whereas for the rest of our departments in the city, we have pensions and healthcare is budgeted separately as a group, that our appropriation over to you guys in the Health Commission includes your pension and health liability. Is that correct, Jim or David?
That is correct.
And so I guess my only question is there any related impact from settling a contract such as this, or anyone for BPHC, that gets factored in? Because obviously with the units, the number that gets drawn down is, I think, generally simply it's simply the wage increases, right? Like we could pull out a calculator and do it and figure it out, and it would be the number you're putting forward. But I think and then we do the PRC process every 5 years on the healthcare side, and there's a pension schedule, et cetera. But I'm just curious whether a new contract causes new calculations on any of those other fronts at BPHC.
Well, in terms of, so PHC is one of the members of the Boston Retirement System. It's a multi-employer retirement plan, and there is, in the valuation in the building of the schedule, there is some assumptions built in there about wage growth, similar to assumptions made about mortality in investment returns. But so there's an expectation that wages will grow, and that the pension schedule should be sufficient to cover that.
So the settlement of a contract like this
It's not an immediate trigger, no.
is not an immediate trigger for any increases in our forecasts on pension or healthcare liability for the Public Health Commission.
Yeah, I do want to say that we're in the midst of doing evaluation for the pension schedule, so there'll be a new pension schedule that's adopted by the retirement system in the fall, I think. So.
And David, can you educate me a little bit on, like, I feel like I have a fairly good sense of where the city department contracts are in the sense of how many of them are still outstanding, et cetera, but I don't actually feel like I have a really good sense of how many units you have at the Public Health Commission and how many of them are still currently out of contract versus who's settled. So can you give us a little bit of that bird's eye view?
Sure. So the Health Commission has 8 separate collective bargaining units. AFSCME is one of them, and SEIU Local 888 represents 4 separate units. We have an SEIU Local 1199 unit that consists of public health nurses. We have the Boston EMS division of the Boston Patrolmen's Association that represents EMTs and paramedics at Boston EMS. And we have a CENA unit that represents mid-management, largely at Boston EMS, but also in various other bureaus of the Boston Public Health Commission. So this is the first contract of the 8 that we've settled. 2 of the 8 contracts, though, just expired in 2021. This particular contract with AFSCME expired September 30th, 2020. The contracts with the Boston Patrolmen's Association and CENA expired in July and September 2021, respectively.
Got it. And sorry, I think I missed one. So you've got AFSCME 93, 4 with 888, 1 1199, 1 EMS, 1 CENA. Okay, yeah, that adds up. Got
I was
it.
going to say, I was going to be in trouble if I left
If
somebody
you
out.
left anybody out, nope, nope, got it. All right, good. Okay, and so that's sort of and so now you've got, this one was the longest out of contract one, the AFSCME 93.
We have one that expired in July of 2020.
And that's
one
who?
of That's one of our SEIU Local
Oh, okay.
888 units.
Okay. Okay, and how many non-EMS workers overall at BPHC? Sorry, covered by collective bargaining, I should say.
Covered by collective bargaining?
And how many does this apply to?
I would say
Sorry, just trying to get a sense of
in the
scale.
neighborhood of 400 or 500
Okay,
non-EMS.
okay, so this is something like a tenth
Right.
of them, this one today, okay.
A
And,
little bit more.
and did I didn't actually see the Juneteenth provision listed in the summary of the OPEIU,
I guess it wasn't in the summary, but it is in
but it is in the contract,
it is in
okay,
the
that was just an
contract, yeah.
omission. All right, good, great. Yeah, I think those are all my questions. Did any other questions from colleagues? Councilor Murphy, you're good. Councilor Flynn? Okay, well, I know that, obviously, it takes the council ratifying vote to actually get folks their retroactive pay, and we know that people are always eager to receive that, and grateful for all the work that you guys do, and obviously we're gonna continue as a council to be reviewing these as they come in, and my goal as chair is, in particular for hearings like this, to focus on the things that are novel, just so long as we're still finishing this kind of existing pattern, because as you referenced, we're going to be back at the table for things expiring in 2023 pretty imminently. But I certainly expect to recommend passage of these dockets at the next council meeting. I'll just do one more check for public testimony. I don't see anybody here to testify. Do we have anyone digitally? Okay, in that case, I just want to, speaking of Juneteenth, wish everyone, all the workers of the city of Boston and residents of the city of Boston, a very happy Monday, Juneteenth, and remind you, if you are an inveterate watcher of our proceedings, that the council will not be in session on Monday because of the holiday. And with that, this hearing of the Boston City Council's Committee on City Services and Innovation Technology is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for coming.
Nice to meet you.
Have a
too.
nice weekend.
You too.